this was the Most High God telling his chosen people, or the people that's in this book, that he was going to discontinue them from their heritage. So the way that they talk, the way that the things they celebrated, the foods they ate, the way that they dressed. Like I said, a lot of these native tribes and a lot of Aztecs and a lot of people even in Africa, right? Because they got a lot of us from Africa, but they understood that we weren't African. That's why they called our people Negro when we got over here, and they didn't call us African. But we had a lot of the same things on our garments as the Aztecs did over here. And we all spoke that Hebrew language, right? Which is why they found like the tablets in Hebrew and stuff like that on that part of the earth.
In Mexico, I think they found 136 Hebrew artifacts in Mexico.
Right. But he said he was going to discontinue us from that language, from that heritage, right? Keep going.
That I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not,
right,
for
so,
ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn
if
forever.
I'm not mistaken, I think some of the Mexicans or Aztecs were shipped to Portugal, right?
I think someone was.
Parts of Spain.
Yeah, Spain.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were shipped back, and then some of us, we were taken from parts of Africa and shipped over here, and that same thing happened. We were serving enemies in a land that we didn't know.
I want to highlight something too, right? It said that we would be discontinued from our heritage. So like, when you ask the brother right here, like, can you tell us what nation you go back to? You're like, man, I really couldn't tell you. The furthest I can go back is America.
And that'd be
there's
called,
a reason for that.
That would be called a prophecy. So it was prophesied that we would not remember where we were from.
I could ask a question.
Right, for sure.
Are you saying that being that, you know, you just don't want to identify with where you come from, or it's just in a sense that you really have no understanding about where you come from? Like in a sense,
like machines?
Yeah, like what nation of people that you may trace your lineage back to? I'm asking, did you say that you were American?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was just saying, are you saying you're American just for lack of understanding, just for lack of a better term, or more so like
Black.
My blood is Nigerian.
On your father's side?
Yeah.
Right, so can you give me that in Numbers 18?
118.
1 and 18. And then so the Bible is all patriarchal, right? So you are what your father is. Meaning, if I have an apple seed, if I plant that seed in America, if I plant that seed in China, it's gonna grow up an apple, right? So that's why it's patriarchal. That seed of your father carries that lineage, right? With that being said, in Nigeria, you have the Igbo tribe, I think the Bantu tribe. All of them have strong relations to the Bible.
Right.
And they Igbo actually means Hebrew. So they actually understand that they weren't African people, but they actually understand that they were Israelites, right? The people of the Bible, right? Read this real quick.
Numbers 1 and 18, and it says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers.
Right, so they declared their pedigree by the house of their fathers. So that's when you said like lineage or genealogy. When you said that, that's that pedigree, and it goes back to your father, like you said, from Nigeria, right?
So watch this, right? When they took us from Nigeria, when they took us from the west coast of Africa and they brought us here by way of ships, right? Now we call ourselves Negroes and African Americans and things like that, right? On this sign, right, where it says American blacks, right, or African Americans, right? What tribe do they say we descend from? Judah. From Judah, right? So this is Stanford University. It's supposed to be an Ivy League, like Yale, Princeton, and all that, right? They have a map of the slave map, right? And so, like the brother was saying, Africa, this western part of Africa used to be called Negro land, right? It says that they're famed. We go to this Nigerian region right here, right? We zoom in, it's gonna say Slave Coast, right? On top of Slave Coast, what it says, Kingdom of what? Judah. So what we're telling you is that this book isn't a fairy tale book.
Right.
It actually has our history in it, the history that the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? That we can only go so far back to because they erased it, but a lot of it's still in here.
So this is the last thing I want to read to you guys, right? Just some of that, some of those records of our people and what would happen to us, right? We got that in Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 28 and 15.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
So this is talking about the people of this book, right?
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes.
Right, so when we hear about the 10 Commandments, we think of Sunday school and Christian church, but these commandments and laws and statutes were no different from America's laws that they have today. It was a set of laws that governed a people. So it's literally a culture. He said, if you guys do not listen to the culture that I've given you as your God, this is going to happen. Keep going.
Which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Right? So read the first curse.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
Right? So that's why a lot of our people you'll see in poverty living check to check. You have some people that have made it, but the majority, we are called minorities, right? So we're cursed in the city, right? Keep going.
And cursed shalt thou be in the field.
So the rice field, sugar cane, tobacco, cotton, we were those people that was cursed in those cities in every nation, right? We were those people that was forced to labor, right? Go to verse 49.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
Right, so that's when you go back to those Greek mascots. You have the Grecian eagle, you have the Egyptian eagle, you have the American eagle, you have the Spaniard eagle, the Roman eagle. All these people use that eagle to show their power and how swift they are, right? And the Bible records that thousands of years before it even happens, right? Keep going.
As swift as the eagle flieth, a tongue whose thou shalt not understand.
Right, so we didn't understand their tongue. Go up to, what is it, 47?
Or we have to go to our enemy for everything.
Sign and a wonder.
46.
Right.
And these curses, they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder.
For a what?
For a sign and for a wonder. And upon thy seed forever.
So these curses God put on us so that we wouldn't forget who we were as a people. He knew that one day we would forget, and he knew that one day we would have these conversations and find out, oh, that's who we are.
Right.
We are those people of the book, right?
Do you guys know about, like, I know you're Mexican, but do you know anything about the history of the Puerto Ricans?
As far as
Like their
how
origin
they're
and stuff like that?
colonized.
Well, they were colonized, yeah, but before they were
Still
called,
a colony.
Yep.
before they were called Puerto Ricans, they were called Taíno Indians, right? And the Taíno Indians, their native tongue is Hebrew, right? They were called the Puerto Ricans because when their colonizers came over to them, they saw little babies playing with like rubies and stuff right there. So, of course, Puerto Rico means port of riches. So they called them the Puerto Ricans at that point. But originally, they're the Taíno Indians who spoke Hebrew, and they actually came from that area of Africa, right? And
So this is the last scripture I want to read you guys, just to show you guys one of the final curses that was put on us to identify us of who we are, right? Verse 68.
the book of Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Right? So Egypt here is synonymous with something, right? At the time, Egypt was not a land. It was called Mizraim, right? But now we know it as Egypt. Egypt is synonymous with the word, and the Bible's going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. The Bible's going to tell you what it is. So the thing about studying the Bible is it's kind of like a big puzzle. You kind of have to piece it together to get the full understanding. If not, that's when you get like different teachings from it where it kind of strays away. But everything that you believe out of the Bible should come from the Bible. So this is what we believe Egypt means in the Bible, right?
The book of Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Out of the what?
Out of the house of bondage.
So that's why when you go to the last book of the Bible in Revelation, it says that you're living in spiritual Egypt now, right? Meaning you're living in spiritual bondage now. So a lot of people say that you're in spiritual captivity in America, saying like we have to work 9 to 5s just because we want the nice cars, we want the X, Y, and Z. Same thing, right? So it just means bondage. So let's read that from the top.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Into bondage again.
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
So that's why I mentioned earlier how they shipped even some of the Aztecs on boats, how they shipped some of the Nigerians on boats, some of the Ghanaians on boats, how they shipped some of the people that were already here, the Native Americans, they shipped them on boats, right? To Jamaicans, Haiti, Puerto Ricans, all of those people got shipped on boats, all of these 12 tribes, and they put new races on us and divided and conquered and made us minorities when really we're the majority. We're all related, right? Keep reading.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye should be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
Right? So what that's saying is, as our God, when he had Moses split the Red Sea, are you guys familiar with that? Moses said, let my people go, right? He was talking about these 12 tribes, and when he split the Red Sea, God said he would never bring them back into captivity. So he said, even though I said I wouldn't bring you guys into captivity, because you don't want to listen to me, I'll send you back into captivity until you guys get right. And I'll make you to serve your enemies. But now we don't see them as enemies because they become our teachers, our coaches, our teammates, right? And we see them as equals now. But the Most High God said this about us, and I'm going to let you guys read after this, right? Read Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse number 6.
Now this is the God of the Bible, right? And so anybody's free to choose the God that they want to serve and believe in, but this is the God of the Bible, the God of these people. And this is what he said about his people, right?
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6.
Right?
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Right? He said you're a holy or set apart people. We said this earlier today to another gentleman, but holy just means set apart. It means separate, right? When you talk to the Christian church, they'll have it be like some majestic word, but really it just means set apart. For example, we have something called holidays. The root word for holiday is holy, meaning they're separate days other than the other days on the calendar, right? So he said you're a holy group of people. We're a set apart group of people. We drive culture, right? We drive everything in the earth, right? We give the earth its flavor, right? Keep going.
For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee has chosen thee.
That's why a lot of times, sometimes we just feel like we're special. We love our cultures. Aztecs, Mexicans, they love their culture. Blacks, we love. Nigerians, I know for a fact, love their culture. That's why we feel chosen a lot of times. It's because we are. Keep going.
Has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself.
Right? A special people. We've created so many different inventions that people put their names on, but we were the ones that came up with it. God saying, guess what?
I ask one question
Go
about
ahead.
dinner. Where do Europeans fit in?
Europeans. So Europeans would be, they're Hebrew as well.
Okay.
Europeans would be Edomites, right?
Okay.
So you have Israelites. These are the 12 tribes of Israel.
Sure.
Then you have Elamites. Elamites would be East Indians. They have 12 princes as well. Then you have Edomites. Edomites have dukes, right? And so when you get your Edomites, you get those people from those Caucasus Mountains and things of that nature. A lot of them, they believed in like Zeus, Poseidon, and things of that. And then they came over with the Roman Catholic Church and they took our Bible, and that's how they made that religion. So when you see us go into places like Greece and Portugal and Spain to get colonized, that's kind of what happened. Those people kind of did that. But we are kind of related to them, being that we all came from the same region, that Hebrew descent, right? Before we were over here in the Americas. That answer your question? Right? And that's in the book of Genesis as well. That whole breakdown's in the book of Genesis. But keep going on that.
A special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Right? So he said we were supposed to be above all people. Some might say that sounds racist and that, oh, your God's racist. But what he's saying is they're supposed to be a teacher pet, right? When you have a class, you have a teacher pet that kind of keeps the other class in line. She or he, as a teacher, can always count on that person to get the answer right or to act how they're supposed to keep the rest of that class in line. So us being at the bottom of society now and them forcing through music and our cultures how we're supposed to act has caused us to be at a lower state. But we were supposed to be at a higher state to show the earth, hey, this is how we're supposed to live. This is how we're supposed to treat each other and things of that nature.
Right.
But standard. Right, a standard, right? We're supposed to be a standard. But just wanted to give you guys that information so you guys can take a look in the Bible again, because I know a lot of our people, we don't really we don't feel a connection to the Bible. But once we get the history, like the brothers showed the map and everything like that, we can kind of have a closer tie and say, hey, these are my people's records. Let me at least take a look at it. That makes sense?
Yeah, and this is just like, aside from appreciating which information is here, but is your belief then that the Bible is the history
Right,
or itself, or do you believe it was synchronicities brought in from all these cultures and then kind of tied into one explanation?
Well, yeah.
Sorry, that's a hard phrase.
Yeah, I think I understand. I'm gonna let him expound too. He might understand you a little better. But what I'll say is, the Bible has books in it, right? Those books were all found separate, right? And they were dated, carbon dated, and then they put them in order. Then the New Testament is composed of letters written that they found as well, right? And then they carbon dated it and they composed it, and then they put it all in the Bible, and that's just a big compilation. So within that, it showed the culture of the people in that area. And so that's why we would say certain people, certain Aztecs, certain Nigerians go back to it with culture. It's because those people come from that area as well.
Right.
And that's kind of the connection to the Bible, right? Go ahead.
No, you good, you got it.
Yo, yeah, I was gonna say that. Piggyback off what he was saying. So the Bible is an anthology. It's nothing but a compilation of ancient records. It is. It's not a compilation of a bunch of different nationalities of people. History. I'm not saying that there isn't any found in here. There is different history of different nationalities of people found inside the book. However, it wasn't something like, okay, we're going to make a group of people based off of this nationality, this nationality,
Right.
this nationality. Right? The Israelites are one ethnic group of people. So majority of the history that you will read from Genesis all the way through Revelation contains information about the Israelites.
Yep.
It has information about other nationalities of people because, again, disobeying the commandments of the Lord, we discontinue from our heritage. Being scattered into different lands, we got different pieces about different kingdoms and different rulerships. We were just arguing a little bit earlier about Persian, Mede, Assyrian, Babylonian captivities, how they're related, and they had the history of the kings. Even when you go into here, you'll find a little information about Egypt, the kings,
The Greeks,
the
the
rulers,
Romans.
the
Yeah, Alexander the
Greeks,
Great.
Roman, Alexander the Great. You'll learn history about a lot of different groups that even history itself will back up. So it's not necessarily it is in history a record of a certain people group, but it does contain information of multiple people groups as well.
So it's pretty much like if you go to school and they teach you AP US history, like advanced placement US history, it's giving you the bias from America. So when you read this, it's giving you the bias from those Hebrews, right? That biased perspective from the Hebrews, but it's still documenting other instances that's happening in history as well. Like we read like Alexander the Great, the Persian captivity with like Shushan Palace and things of that nature. It goes through all of that stuff as well. So, but yeah, just look at it, instead of looking at it as a big religious book, look at it as another history book. And then you'll probably feel more connected to it, and it'll probably make a lot more sense, if that makes sense.
Don't even look at it as a religious book because it's not. Religion isn't found. You know what I'm saying? The word religion is only mentioned one time, and that's in the book of Baruch. But it's not necessarily as how we know Christianity to be today. You know.
It talks about charity, and it talks about like other stuff like that. You guys
What's
have a
your
good day.
name?
Stay safe.
Gabe,
Yasmin.
Yasmin,
Gotcha. Austin.
Thank you.
Ashley.
Foster.
Obadiah.
Nice to meet you.
You guys be safe.